They say heroes don't always wear capes, sometimes they wear old boots, faded uniforms, and carry scars that no one can see. This is a story that began in a small town with a father and his daughter, dismissed and disrespected by those who thought they knew better. A police officer laughed at the claim that a broken-down single dad was one special forces, mocking what he could never understand. But when the truth finally walked onto the scene, that laugh turned into silence, and what unfolded became something the entire town would never forget. Stay with me until the end, because this story is not just about one man's past, it's about sacrifice, love, and the unshakable bond between a father and his daughter. The town was the kind where everybody knew everybody, and reputation stuck like glue. James Holloway was known as the quiet, worn-out single dad who worked odd jobs just to keep the lights on. His daughter, Lily, was 12 years old, bright-eyed, and fiercely protective of the men who had raised her alone since her mother passed away when she was little. What most people didn't see was the way James carried himself, his straight posture, his precise movements, the way his eyes always scanned a room before he stepped inside. To the untrained eye, he was just a tired veteran, but to Lily, he was a warrior, her hero. Trouble began when a confrontation broke out at the local grocery store. James was waiting outside in his rusty pickup truck while Lily went in to buy milk and bread. Inside, two teenagers were causing chaos, pushing shelves, and stealing candy. The store manager called the police, and within minutes, an officer walked in. Lily, caught near the mess, tried to explain who her father was when the officer questioned her. Nervously, she told him her dad was trained special forces, a man who had served his country with honor. The officer chuckled, shaking his head, dismissing her words as childish fantasy. To him, James was just another washed-up veteran who hadn't adjusted to civilian life. That laugh hit Lily like a stone. She felt her face burn with embarrassment and anger. She wanted to scream that her father wasn't some nobody, that he had done things this officer couldn't even imagine. But the cop's condescending smile silenced her, and all she could do was run back to her father's truck, fighting back tears. James noticed immediately. He asked her what was wrong, but she just shook her head, not wanting him to know how others mocked him. The truth was, James had endured far worse in silence. He had been deployed multiple times, had seen brothers in arms fall, had endured missions that demanded everything from him and gave nothing back. But now, he faced the quiet war of raising a daughter alone in a town that never saw the depth of his sacrifice. Money was tight, his knees ached from old injuries, and there were nights when he stared at the ceiling, wondering if he had given his daughter the life she deserved. That laugh, though, it would not be forgotten. Not by Lily. And not by James when he eventually heard about it. Because sometimes, underestimating the wrong men is the beginning of a lesson no one ever forgets. Days later, fate had its way of bringing everything to light. The town hosted its annual fall festival, a gathering where booths lined the streets, kids played games, and the community came together. James rarely attended, but Lily begged him to go, partly because she wanted him to feel included, but also because that same police officer was on duty, patrolling the event. Deep inside, Lily wanted the world to see what she already knew about her dad. Trouble came swiftly. A commotion broke out when a stranger, a man no one recognized, began causing panic near the children's area. He shoved people aside and threatened one of the vendors. The officer rushed in, but the man was bigger, stronger, and trained in a way that ordinary police officers weren't ready for. The officer struggled, losing control of the situation, and the crowd began to panic. Children screamed, parents pulled their kids away, and chaos spread like wildfire. That was when James Holloway stepped forward. He handed Lily his jacket and whispered for her to stay put. Then, with calm precision, he moved through the crowd. Every step was deliberate, every movement controlled. In a moment that stunned everyone, James disarmed the men with flawless technique, swift, efficient, and without unnecessary violence. He subdued him using skills honed long before anyone in that town had ever heard his name. The crowd fell silent, watching the men they had dismissed reveal the truth with actions louder than any words could ever speak. The police officer, catching his breath, stared at James in disbelief. Suddenly, the laughter from days before seemed cruel and hollow. He realized that the men he had mocked was not only telling the truth, he had been standing in the presence of someone extraordinary. Lily ran to her father, her eyes filled with pride. For the first time, the entire town saw James for who he truly was, not as the broken-down single dad they thought he was, but as a hero who never needed recognition, only the chance to protect what he loved. In the weeks that followed, the story spread. Neighbors approached James with newfound respect. The officer, humbled, personally apologized to Lily and James, admitting his mistake. But what mattered most wasn't the town's recognition, it was the way Lily looked at her father, her pride unshaken, her love deeper than ever. James told her quietly one night, being special forces wasn't about being special, it was about serving others, no matter the cost. But being your dad, that's my greatest mission. And in that simple truth, the story closed, not with medals, not with applause, but with a lesson, that real heroes don't seek validation, and that the strongest battles are often fought in silence, for the people we love. Never underestimate the quiet strength of those around you. Some heroes walk among us without needing recognition, and sometimes, the greatest act of courage is simply being there for the ones who need you most.